Even from the first year, we had a lot of interest. It's something new, it's exciting, and it offers a lot of opportunity for people to gather and learn and share amongst themselves.
Just 2 short years ago, Matawa First Nations management had a vision to start a movement of bringing together communities to share experiences and ideas about the environment, land use planning issues, and the actions necessary to preserve and protect their traditional lands. This year, NOFNEC, as it has come to be known, has grown to be the largest conference of its kind, not only in Ontario but the whole of Canada. This year you are sharing with representatives from 8 tribal councils and an impressive 80 Northern First Nations communities. First Nation people have always acted as stewards of their traditional lands and have made protecting Mother Earth one of their highest priorities. For generations, First Nations people have lived in unison with the Northern Ontario ecosystem. This is why the messages and workshops being presented at this conference will be so important.
Our communities are faced with many challenges. There's a lot of potential impacts to First Nations on their lands, and their traditional territories. I hope that the information presented at this conference will be of use to community members so that they might be able to go home and make sure that they're protecting the lands or doing whatever they need to do to sustain future generations.
Today, Northern First Nation communities are entering an era of unprecedented resource development on their traditional lands that will challenge their environmental and land use management programs and policies. If not managed properly, the land and its inhabitants' traditional ways of life could be at risk. First Nations must work together with government and industry so that all can benefit from development in Northern Ontario while protecting the health of the land, water, and wildlife. As environment and land management professionals, First Nations must look to find a balance between economic development, the protection of Mother Earth, and First Nation traditions. Through this conference, the knowledge and experiences necessary to help strike this delicate balance will be presented and shared. The resource extraction facilities and related infrastructure that will impact traditional lands will have a limited lifespan, a blink of an eye in comparison to the years that First Nations have lived on and protected these lands. When the resources have been extracted, First Nations people will once again be the ones to remain and live off the land. Thus, the focus must not only be on large-scale development issues, but also on the day-to-day operation and maintenance practices of First Nations communities. By taking a proactive approach prior to commencing resource development, First Nations can encourage the preservation of their communities and prevent the destruction of their traditional lands in order to help provide a bright future for generations to come.
This year at the conference, we have 2 main streams of workshops. The first is operation maintenance, and land use planning is the second. We decided that the environment encompasses many different areas within each community administration. So we'd like to reach out to both sectors, which are very different from one another.
At this year's NOFNEC conference, you will be given the opportunity to meet and work with other First Nation environment and land use planning professionals, tribal councils and leaders, and industry representatives. Together, they will discuss the environmental issues affecting First Nations people and communities. Workshops and speakers will provide crucial information and hands-on training that can be put into practice in your community. These workshops and sessions allow for collaboration, networking, and helping to build better working relationships that are vital to the preservation of traditional lands and the First Nation way of life.
Our communities are faced with many challenges. There's a lot of potential impacts to First Nations on their lands, and their traditional territories. I hope that the information presented at this conference will be of use to community members so that they might be able to go home and make sure that they're protecting the lands or doing whatever they need to do to sustain future generations.
So welcome and congratulations on attending the Northern Ontario First Nation Environment Conference. As a delegate, presenter, or sponsor of this year's gathering, you have become a part of a movement with enormous potential. A movement that puts First Nations communities at the forefront of environmental development and land use planning issues in Northern Ontario. You are encouraged to learn from the workshops and information at the conference in order to better your community. That is why the Northern Ontario First Nations Environment Conference is a gathering for a sustainable future.
I just hope that everyone has a great time at the conference this year and that I see lots of people smiling and laughing, because laughing is always a great way to meet new people and to have a good time. And it's very healing.